Because in America, I'm homeless.
I want us to have our wedding at the end of your trip. We're gonna have our wedding, yeah.
You were a drug dealer before. You can revert back to that like tomorrow. If you were walking, maybe you'd be selling drugs. Maybe you're not selling drugs now because you're not walking. That's up.
Don't you just love when people drop bombshells and act like you knew that, right? And you're like, no, that's funny that you'd say that like it's casual. That happened a lot in this episode with Brian lying about his age and revealing the truth about his past and how he got to where he is. And then Loren casually dropping in that he's homeless and, oop, I might have got an STI because, oh yeah, I've been cheating on you and we've been in a non-monogamous relationship. But you knew that, right? Yeah. This episode is a hot mess. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss Before the 90 Days. And boy, oh boy. I'm just shaking my head watching this thinking, aren't these seasons like 20 episodes long? And we're at what, in episode 3, 4? I lost track, but it's early and we are getting this kind of material. I am shook to my core. I can't wait to talk about all of this with you. So we're going to jump straight in. Before we do, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you to my current subscribers. I really appreciate you. I love seeing the numbers in the comments go up because I just love hearing your thoughts. So thank you. I also want to give a shout out to my members. I have 2 new members. I'm going to show you guys on the screen. Thank you guys so much. Making YouTube videos is a lot of work and trying to do it while I'm doing my day job. So you guys signing up just to support the channel is really sweet. And I also appreciate the coffee donations that have come through. Thank you guys so much. It's just so sweet to see those. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, no pressure. It is down below along with my socials. But yeah, housekeeping aside, let's get into the mess. I want to jump straight into Brian and Ingrid because Brian, you had me fooled. And now I'm on to your game. So after their first night, which we witnessed, that was not one bit romantic, we see these two all cozied up on the bed and you know, maybe they got some rest and maybe, you know, things will be better, right? Because it was just so awkward night 1. So Brian, I don't think got the memo that he's still coming on too strong. When we see them in the bed, he's like kissing up on her and she still has her back towards him. And in his like interview, he's like, yeah, you know, I want her to catch up really fast. And he tells her like, oh, like, was it too much yesterday? Thinking that she would be like, oh, no, it's fine. I love that she was like, you have to be patient with me because it was just day 1. Like, and in her interview, she shares, she's like, honestly, all of this is confusing because he led me to believe that he's, you know, independent and he doesn't need help. And all of a sudden he was, you know, asking me to do all these things. And I don't think the problem is that she had to do those things. I think the problem is that in her brain, she was, you know, being deceived and she wasn't being given the full scope of things. And so she has no idea that he's been testing her, which is foul. So she thinks that he's lying to her, which, I mean, testing, lying, I think they go hand in hand. So they set off to their travel day because as we know, she lives in a remote part of Brazil. And because it's so remote, it's not accessible. So when they get to her town, Brian is going to stay at a hotel and Ingrid is going to split her time back and forth because after all, she is a mother. She has to be home. So they have this long car ride ahead and Ingrid is like, so is there anything that you want to do? You want to try? You want to see? And he's like, you know, yeah, I want to meet your mom. I want to meet your dad. I want to meet your friends. Like, and she's like, okay, so you want to meet people. And he's like, yeah, like it's important that I meet, you know, your family. And she's like, listen, I haven't really told many people about you because I just don't know how people will react, particularly my dad. I don't think he'll be very understanding. He can be a little bit hard-headed about these things. And you can see Brian shift in his seat and like, he just looks so disappointed that she hasn't shared her world. But my thing is, there's clearly so much she doesn't know yet about you. And you are pushing this, that you need to like, blend your worlds. You guys need to get to know each other. Like, you're doing a lot. And this just keeps unraveling because so far we're like, oh, Brian is this nice guy. He just wants love. So as Ingrid is talking about, how her dad is, Brian is still pushing it. And ultimately he's like, how old is your dad? Like, why is he acting like that? And she's like, oh, he's 51. And Brian is like, oh, that's my age. Like, that's fine. Like, he'll be fine. He'll understand. And Ingrid is like, you're not 51, you're 45. Because when they met, he was 43. That is what she thinks. And she is standing on that, okay? Ingrid says his profile said he was 43. As Ingrid is telling him this, he's like, I've never had a problem with my age. Like, no, like you're mistaken. In the 2 years that they've been dating, his age should have come up. The fact that she thought that he was 43 and should be 45 by now should have come up. And she says that it was on his profile. So you're telling me that in 2 years, he never thought to correct her? And I'm supposed to believe that you didn't have a problem with your age? That wasn't an insecurity? And he goes on like, oh, well, I told you that you're my daughter's age. That didn't make you do the math? Sir, it is not Ingrid's job to do the math. You're supposed to be honest from the gate. And so Ingrid is just like, what is going on? And like, why is he downplaying that I thought this? Like, I didn't just think of that out of nowhere. Like, I saw that you said that. And so, they're having this long car ride ahead. So she's stewing on this. And he briefly is like, oh yeah, because of my accident. And she's like, about that accident, like how did you become paralyzed? Because he's referred to the accident to her before, but he's never given her details. And that's been very, very intentional. Well, this is the moment when I knew that Brian is a piece of garbage, okay? Because he's told us that he hasn't told her how it happened, the whole picture, right? He's already told us. In this car, he's like, oh, I never told you that I sold drugs? You didn't know that? That's crazy. I wanted to scream because he's starting this conversation with gaslighting. Just going strong with gaslighting. And that's literally what gaslighting is, when you try to warp someone's reality. She did not know that. You acknowledge that she didn't know that. But because you're in the hot seat, you want to just deter the attention. And so he tells her the story of how, he used to sell drugs and he used to lead the fast life. And, his family didn't agree with it. And it led to him not talking to his mom for 3 years. And he's giving this sob story of how he was wronged when he was young by his family because he wanted this life. And I'm noticing a pattern of he likes to lead with emotion. He likes you to feel bad about the fact that he was lonely and didn't have family and fell out of love with his ex-wife. She set him up when he told her that he doesn't love her anymore. And that led to the carjacking, that led to him getting shot, that led him to being paralyzed forever. That's a horrible thing that happened. And it should have never happened. But he is going over the fact that he has lied to this woman for 2 years and omitting the events that led to it. So in this story where he's like, oh yeah, I sold drugs and I used to do drugs and, my ex-wife just couldn't let go of me and my family left me. And he's like with his tears in his eyes, right? Just violin, cue it up, okay? And he's omitting in this story that it's not just that he told his ex-wife that he fell out of love. It has already been leaked that he was cheating on his wife. Not saying that makes it okay that she set him up at all. But he's not taking any accountability in this story of the moves and choices that he made that led to that unfortunate ending. He's pulling out the waterworks because he's seeking sympathy. And Ingrid is just like, cannot believe what she's hearing. Her range of reactions as he's saying that story are just like, Like, do I even know this person? And so Ingrid is like, I don't feel good hearing this. And he's like, well, I don't feel good living it, telling you it. Sir, you've had like 20 something years to live with it. Of course, it affects your like way of life. So I don't think that's something you'll ever get over. But you've had a head start in comparison to Ingrid hearing this for the first time, okay? And not only have you had the 20 years of life, you've had the 2 years in the relationship that you've been skedaddling around the truth. Right now, in this moment, it's not about processing your emotions anymore. It's about her processing hers, and it's about you answering every question that she may have. Ingrid is like, so you were a criminal. I grew up just like being far away from drugs, and like that's bad, and like this is a huge part of your story. So it sounds like you loved doing that, you liked the money, and you would have kept doing it if you hadn't gotten shot. And he looks offended, but I don't think that's like a far-fetched conclusion. But she's just sitting there in disgust because she's like, you purposely didn't tell me this before coming here. And so she feels trapped. Again, they're in this very long car ride, and Ingrid is again stewing in her seat, silent, and Brian calls it out like, oh, like you're quiet. And she's like, oh, you want me to talk? Okay, I'll talk. You never told me that this is what led to you being paralyzed. Like, why wouldn't you tell me that? And he's like, oh, well, it really doesn't make much of a difference. Again, you don't get to decide what's a big deal to her. You held out on purpose. Again, just showing that you are full of it. She's like, I'm very anti all of that. So how do I know that when we get married, you're not gonna, take that on again? And that's valid to ask, to say. She has very young children in her home. Like, it's scary, especially when she didn't know this about the person that she's been with for 2 years. And again, that's what makes his whole, I want to be part of your world, and like you're hiding me from people. That's what makes that whole speech of his just reek of hypocrisy. Because you're asking her to bring you into her world when she knows very little about you. That is sacred to her. And you are showing her that you don't respect her by omitting important things that you know will make her look the other way. By denying her her right to choose. Yeah, I wouldn't introduce you to anybody. I wouldn't even introduce you to my shadow. Nonetheless, my family that will already have to adjust majorly to you. Like, this is big. And so again, he's very offended by how she's reacting. And you don't get to be offended. He says that he has changed and like that is behind him. But this is brand new information to her. And again, like, it's not that you deserved what happened to you, but that was long ago. And you made these decisions to purposely withhold information. Like, when it comes to how she's reacting to this news, you're not a victim. And so they get to this hotel and things are tense, and he wants to get laid and he wants connection, and it's like, sir, night one, you were yanking on your tool and showing her a catheter. And then night two, you're telling her that you had a whole secret life and downplaying it. So yeah, she doesn't want to touch you, okay? But she's still being cool. She's not being amorous because she doesn't feel it and she shouldn't have to be. She's just like, yeah, I'm going to go get food. He's pissed that she's not going to the pool with him, but she's like, no, I'm going to get his food. And it's probably for the best, right? Because she's processing all of this. He goes to the pool and he just is like, I feel so judged. Everything she said to him to his face is valid. She's grown up to be scared about anything drug-related, anything crime-related, and she feels deceived because if he would have told her that ahead of time, she would have made different choices. So all of it feels icky to her. And I also feel like she's allowed to process out loud with you because you are supposed to be her partner, right? And you're the one that's trying to race to normalcy, and I understand that desire. But it's unfair. You're only thinking about yourself. And if you wanted normalcy so bad, you could have gotten a head start on this and had these very important conversations way before you bought your flight to come to Brazil. Because now you have to play catch up. Ingrid is on to him. She calls out. She's like, he was being strategic and not telling me. And these heavy conversations are only going to continue into the next one. But he messed with the wrong woman. Because Ingrid has all 10 toes down. She's like, no, no, no. We're going to process this. And I'm going to decide. And I pray that she just goes the other way. Because immediately I was turned off with how he tried to warp her reality. That is so dishonest. Y'all, if people lie to you about the little things, they're most definitely going to lie to you about the big things. That is a big red flag to me. Oh, Brian, you really have fallen from grace. And you know what? I should have known in episode 1, he started his arc with, yeah, I had this terrible accident that led to it. And then at the end was like, oh yeah, there's more to the story. After he had already made us feel bad for him. I should have known. But let's move on to the next couple. I actually want to talk about the new couple that was introduced. Nile Valentine. I have to say his full name because that's a cool name. So it's Nile and Matilda. And I immediately love this. We hop into Alabama, where he's from, and we step straight into a D&D game, Dungeons and Dragons. And I love it. I love the nerd factor. I just don't think that you have to be a nerd and have a bad haircut. Like, I saw his confessional look and I'm like, okay, you look presentable. You've shaved it off. Great. He's looking rough in this D&D game and it's unnecessary. It's just me being nitpicky because I feel like guys that are balding should just own it. It looks so much better when you own it rather than when you're holding on to the last bits of it. But anyway, that's the least important thing about this couple. Niles is a character all on his own, and I'm getting glimpses that Matilda is too. We're gonna have a time with this couple. So the first thing that we learn about Niles is that he is on the spectrum, and immediately I was like, oh, I don't know what the community is like in Alabama. I feel like there are such huge disconnects with like people of color and dealing with different learning abilities and just how they're treated. And I just feel like I don't know much about Alabama, but that's the deep south, isn't it? So my brain was immediately just racing of like, what was life like for him growing up? But he seems like a really settled in adult. He has a day job doing advocacy work. We see a little later that he does some delivery work. So he's making it happen for himself. He clearly has a social circle, but he talks about how hard it was for him to grow up and be able to connect with people, especially because he's so direct. But we do see him in this office where he works at, and we see his little routine, greeting everyone. And then we get to the break room. And that's when he's telling his coworker, he's like, yeah, you know, I'm going to Ghana soon. And that's where he's going to meet his fiance, Matilda. So they've been dating for 2 years, and she actually reached out to him on socials. And I love the way that he talks about her. You know, she makes me feel things. Okay. And Niall says that he has come clean to her about his autism, and she says that she accepts him. And I love that. I love to hear that. However, I'm scared because we don't know her yet. And I know that in Ghana, like, Christianity is huge. And I feel like there are a lot of people in the world, including America, that are so strong in their convictions that they think that they can pray away things like autism. I hope that that's not the case with Matilda. But I immediately thought this. I was like, okay, I hope that you really accept him. And so like I said, they've been dating for 2 years, and he one day decided to propose to Matilda. But he proposed under the guise that they would have some time before they have to plan a wedding. Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, sir, the minute you put a ring in a woman's hand, the timeline is no longer yours, okay? And Matilda has been planning this wedding since that happened. She is planning a wedding and expecting that they get married at the end of his trip. He is overwhelmed because, one, they've never met. This is going to be his first time going to Ghana. So he's like, I'd like a trip for us to just get to know each other. And so he's waiting to tell her that he doesn't want to get married when they see each other in person. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's a bad idea, especially if she's been planning. But I feel for him because he's like, she's the love of my life. And I'm afraid that I'm going to lose her if she feels rejected, because she is going to take me postponing the wedding as rejection. I don't know why people keep doing this to themselves, leaving the big news until they land. Lay all your cards on the table, give people their choice. Like, this is so chaotic. And so aside from his day job, he also does food delivery. He's been saving up for this trip, but also he's saving up for this wedding. And he also has to consider a bride price. So this is, again, pushing him towards not wanting to get married in this trip because he's like, I need money and I certainly don't have enough right now for a wedding. And so he really wants to tell her, but he's nervous because every time she brings up the wedding, he kind of like shuts down and just like agrees to everything. But sir, if you wait till last minute to cancel this wedding, you are going to end up without a girlfriend altogether. So it's like, the sooner the better. It's going to be bad regardless. And while he's going on about this, she FaceTimes him. And Niles is flirting his butt off. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this. And it reminds me of that show, Love on the Spectrum. I just feel like people on the spectrum get it right. They cut to the chase. They don't play games. It's really sweet to watch. And so she's going on about, oh, babe, I can't wait to pick you up at the airport. I'm telling everybody about our wedding. My neighbor, our pastor, my family. I just can't wait. And Niles is like, yeah, I mean, we really want to get it right because we can only do it once, right? We should take our time with it. And she's like, yeah, we're going to do it at the end of your trip. You wouldn't disappoint me, right? And that sounded like more of a threat than anything. It sent chills down my spine. And Niles is just like, he is shaking in his boots. And I just know Matilda is going to crack us up. And we're in for it when we get to Ghana. I can't wait. Let's move on to the next couple. We're going to move on to Sunny&Veah. So the date is quickly approaching for Veah to go to South Africa to see Sunny. And she is just so giddy, but also delusional about the fact that she's bringing her ex. And she thinks that everything is just going to be okay. Okay. And so she works, I think, as a physical therapist, if I'm not mistaken. That's what she does. But she's been putting in hours, like working through her lunch, picking up extra shifts, because she has to save up for this trip. It's a big undertaking for her. And this has caused some friction between her and Sunny because Sunny, wants attention. And when he feels like she's not communicating enough, he immediately thinks she's cheating. So this has been hard on them, and to make up for it, she decides, after he requests it, to have him join her in the shower. There are things that I would love for them to show us, and I'm going to tell you right now, a shower scene is not one of them. We've been scarred enough with these on this show, and it reminds me, in this conversation, that Sunny is Muslim. And I'm pretty sure this isn't okay to do, right? He is looking giddy as can be watching her shower. And so when she comes out the shower, they're still on the phone, lounging. And she's like, so does your family know that you're staying at a hotel with me? And he's like, no, like I haven't told them. Of course he hasn't told them because they're, really strict Muslims. And she's like, yeah, I know stricter Muslims, but obviously, like, we talk lusty to each other. He's seen her naked, and he goes out and parties and drinks. So she's like, it's so interesting, like, how, he manages his religion. The way he talks about the parents makes her ask him, like, wait, so would your parents want you to be with a Muslim girl? Like, and this guy is like, oh, well, they believe what they believe. I would never pressure you, to convert. And she's like, do you want me to convert? And he's like, well, you know, I wouldn't ask you, but I would ask you. The way he said that was just such a, like, mind game. And I love that she was on to him. Like, it sounds to me like you would want me to do that. So she's giving him a side eye, but then in her interview, she tells us that she's just overall skeptical about religion. She says that one of her foster families was extremely religious, kind of like a cult, and that really just affected her and how she views religion. So she is not down to join another religion by force. And this conversation was very illuminating for me with the way that Sunny was acting. And I just really dislike the fact that people in real life and on this show pick partners that are completely different from what they want for themselves in the long term. These partners that are so like free-spirited and then are like, yeah, I'm gonna make you fall in love with me and then I'm gonna give you all these rules that you didn't sign up for to start. I don't like that. And I feel like Sunny is really downplaying how important religion is to him, and it's gonna resurface. Let's add that on to the list of drama that awaits them, okay? And so finally, it's the day before she has to go to South Africa, and Rory, her ex, comes over because he doesn't live in town. So, okay, he's sleeping over your place on top of also joining you in this trip. Add that to the list of things that Sunny will fight you about. So we see them run errands. We see her drop off her dog to her friend to dog sit. And the whole time in the car, we can really see her chemistry with Rory. We're getting a look at their inside jokes. In this conversation, though, she says that she got a darker shade of her spray tan specifically because she's going to South Africa. Major side eye. But anyway, she's having a really hard time leaving her dog behind because she says that's her only family. Rory asks her like, hey, have any of your family visited your new place? Because it sounds like she might have moved. And she says no. So I'm seeing more and more just how tight her bond is with Rory because no family or friends have come to visit her except him. And we learn a little more about how deeply their trauma bond is. So yes, they were together for 2.5 years, but they also went through a lot of hardships together. So she tells us that one of her brothers was a casualty at the hands of law enforcement. And that's already terrible. But on top of that, during that time, she was expecting a baby with Rory and she miscarried. I'm guessing, you know, because of the stress that her body took on. And that, like, just scarred her and that affected, you know, how they moved forward in their relationship. But they've always remained friends, like they're family. I get all of that. Those are some deep, deep ties. And I can see why that would be a friendship that you would keep. However, I feel like when you move on to a new relationship, that friendship does have to be modified. There have to be some boundaries. And I still, even knowing all of this, I feel like all of those things should be explained to Sunny, you know, that they've been together long enough that she should trust him with that information. Given everything that we know, she's still not being fair to her relationship and doing all this hiding, because the more you hide, the more I would believe that there's something more to you and Rory. Like, if there's nothing to hide, then you should come clean with all of your cards. That's what I think. And hopefully, when she does it, it's not too late, you know? So Rory asks her, does Sunny know that I'm coming? And she's like, no, like, I'm gonna tell him when we get there. And he's like, that's messed up. And I'm glad that he said that, because I don't think that he's been appropriate. And if anything, even him agreeing to go on this trip, I think is inappropriate. They're both just out of line for this. And Veah, again, it's just in Delusion City. She's like, oh, he's so nice. It's gonna be fine. But also, you know, we get into some fights and I really need you to be there. So here's the thing. She's bringing Rory for backup, because she's like, oh, well, he may be upset. Veah, you pulling up to this country for the first time that you're meeting your boyfriend with your ex are grounds to have a fight. That's earned. And you have to deal with the consequences of whatever he says and battle it out as a couple because you put yourself in that position. That's one. But now you've set yourself up to be this like person that needs saving, and you're going to bring this knight, and he's going to clash with Sunny. And I feel like this is just out of place. And I just feel like this is not his place to intervene in this fight that you are causing, that you have fabricated by lying and by bringing this third party that doesn't need to be in the mix. You see what I mean? I understand that they've gotten into fights before and she feels like that's why she needs support. It doesn't remove the fact that now this fight that's about to come up is on you. I also feel like, you know, we haven't seen Sunny angry, and that's gonna play a factor into how I see the relationship. But if I was Veah's friend, I would tell her, babe, if you feel like you need backup to handle how he emotes anger or emotes sadness, if you feel like you need backup to deal with that, that doesn't sound like the safest relationship. That doesn't sound like you should go to this country to meet this person. So I have many questions, and I think that they'll be answered once we see them in action. So we're gonna move on to the next couple, Tigerlily and Adnan. So it's the day of the big wedding, and we see Adnan singing to Tigerlily, and he is just so cheerful. These two can't get their hands off of each other. Time for them to get ready, and he's gonna go get ready with his groomsmen. In comes her glam squad, and he's like, to Shay, Tigerlily cannot be around men, so you have to keep your eye out and protect her. And Shay's like, I thought I was a makeup artist. Now I'm a babysitter? She is like a deer in headlights. She has zero thoughts floating through that brain, or at least she's pretending not to have a thought. And she's just like, yeah, like, he's my mouthpiece. I say nothing. But we find out that she's purposely just like shutting her off her brain because she's like, this is my wedding day. I didn't get to have a wedding with my first marriage. It was a courthouse situation. So this is my moment. Everything else we can work out later. Sure, Jan. And so all of this is strange to her friends. Her friends are seated there like, so he's like, you're going to tell me that after doing her hair for 20 years, I can't touch her a certain way. I can't be alone with her. Like, I don't know how that's going to work. Also, Adnan started this show saying that he was fine with her being friends with that guy, right? But then all of a sudden they get married and he changes his tune just slightly. Like, oh, well, yeah, you can be around, but not by yourself. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Adnan, and I don't like it, okay? But Tigerlily is confused as to what the rules are, okay? Because she's expecting a, videography crew to document their wedding, and in comes just like a crew of men. And so she's like, oh, like just nervous. She's like, okay, so this is okay because he hired them, but if I were to hire them, like it's not okay. Like she's just like, I don't know what the rules are and I don't want to think about it today, but we will have to unpack this tomorrow. But I felt extremely uncomfortable watching the fear in her eyes because she's like, is this okay? When he hired them, did he know they were men? Like the fact that you have to think overtime about whether or not your husband is going to have a fit over who's in the room, that is an exhausting way to live. And again, the fact that she can't see the parallels between this and the marriage that she escaped. Oof. So she's trying not to think about it because she's like, you know what? He hired them. He must have known, right? So now she's getting ready with her crew and she lets them in on what happened the day before with that random hairstylist. And they're like, babe, you don't see the correlation? You don't see that as controlling? And she's like, no, I just feel that as him seeing me as his most prized possession. And she's like, I feel so special and protected. You know what? There's a fine line, right, between feeling protected and feeling like a possession. and it can get grim really fast. And I think that she's being naive, but I also feel like she's choosing to be naive, and I don't know what her motive is for just following along to this unless they're faking it. And the way that she's talking about her and Adnan is reminding me of Shekinah and Sarper. How she likes being controlled by him and measured by him and getting her nose custom made by him. Like, it is twisted. But for every lid, there's a pot. And if it works for them, but I don't think that it's just this glamorous relationship. I think that there is real fear beneath, and I don't like it because Shay is like, okay, can I sneak off and go do my makeups, but so I can speed on because we have to get you ready. And Tigerlily's like, you can't leave. Like, you can't. He's gonna be upset. You can't. So now her friend is forced to be a babysitter, and they're on a time crunch. Like, everyone has to get ready for the wedding, and you're telling me I have to sit here and watch you get your hair done and do nothing because I can't step away? So ultimately, it looks like Shay just starts getting her makeup done in the same room that Tigerlily's in, and they get to girl talking a little bit about the first night. Tigerlily continues to tell us that the first night was amazing, which I'm in disbelief, and so is Shay. Shay's like, are you sure he was a virgin? Like, how would he know how to do the magical things he did if he was a virgin? And Tigerlily's like, I don't know. Isn't it like primal? I'm not going to get into it. She's being vague and mum about the details. If she says it was good, good for her, right? And so it's time to put on the dress. Shay wants to get dressed so that she can help Tigerlily and be hands-on. Tigerlily's like, you can't leave. And Shay's not even trying to leave the room. Shay's trying to go behind the curtain because there's a videographer in the bathroom with them. So it's a pickle. And I think it was like a miscommunication, or like, I don't know if it was like an issue with the language barrier, but the guy wouldn't leave the bathroom. And Shay's like, what are we gonna do? Like, we need to get ready. He needs to go, I need to go. Like, what's gonna happen? Eventually the guy leaves and the problem is solved. But again, the fact that Tigerlily gets so nervous when it comes to making decisions on her own because she's afraid about how Adnan is going to react, it's a no for me. But whatever, they get her ready and she's in this beautiful gown and it looks expensive, but the whole thing looks expensive. I've been wondering about what the money situation is because obviously she has her own, little cushion. But I think Adnan comes from money because everything about this screams luxury. Like the hotel that they're staying at, glamorous. There's a whole camera crew separate from the 90-day crew, okay? The wedding venue, we get to see them drive to it. Looks stunning. The whole wedding screams money, okay? But we do get to see them have their first look. They both look beautiful. He looks really handsome. I love her dress. I love her makeup look. And I love the blonde. I just don't love the blonde with her white dress because it kind of washes her out. Maybe they should have done a little more contour. I don't know. But it just like washes her out. Maybe it was the lighting. I don't know. But there was a scene that I was like, you look a little strange. But we do see them in the car driving to the venue. She's a little quiet in the car ride, a little pensive. I don't know if she's thinking about all of the different rules that have her stressing, or if she's prepping herself for the fact that he has a huge family. This wedding has about 200 guests. They pull up, you guys, rich. It looks huge. There's all these beautiful lighting. He says that there's going to be a fire show. There's going to be tons of food, performances. It looks crazy. So we're going to get to see more of that in the next episode. I don't think Tigerlily matches the vibe of his family. I don't know if it's because she doesn't know them yet. Maybe because she didn't really have friends because her ex-husband didn't let her. I think she's going to struggle at her own wedding. She's going to look picture perfect in all of the videos and photos. But when it comes to blending in with the fam, I think she's going to struggle, but we'll see in the next episode. Let's move on to the next couple. Final one, I believe. Yeah, Loren and Faith. Where do I begin with Loren and Faith? There's just so much. So it's morning and we see Faith go to Loren's hotel room because she's about to take him to a market. Loren was going on about how he, you know, slept well, but he's disappointed that he didn't wake up to Faith. Okay, because we know you have a one-track mind. So Faith is there and she's like, so you ready to go to the market? And he's like, yeah, but I only have American dollars. And she's like, oh yeah, we can change it downstairs. How much do you want to change? And he's like, all of it. And he opens his wallet and he has like 40 something bucks. And she's like, that's all you brought for the whole trip? And he's like, yeah, for now, I have a charge pending coming through. But for now, yeah, just this. And you could see her being like, okay. But she's so trusting of this man because she's like, he's working all the time. Every time I speak to him, he has a gig. Surely money will be coming in, right? Right? So he's like, is there anything that you want from the market? And she's like, maybe, I don't know, like you have to budget your money. And the way she said it was very like, sir, you have $43 that can only hold you for a few days, you know? You get to the market and everything is so inexpensive and his eyes are just like widening at the possibility, like, ooh, I can be rich in the Philippines. Because of that, he's like, yeah, babe, you want that? Get it. Oh yeah, that would look sexy on you. Yeah, get it. Sure, I'll get it for you. And he's just acting like he is sugar daddy. Because in the Philippines, he can potentially be that. He's like, I've never been able to do that for any girlfriend. The possibilities. And so anything she looks at, he's like, yeah, you can get it. And Faith is, cautiously accepting his generosity. But, she's also feeling smitten by this because she's never had a man do things like this for her. So while in the back of her mind, she's worried, she feels flattered and feels like a lady and feels, good. And she's like, yeah, sure, I want this, babe. The next activity of that day is to meet one of her friends who she views as a mother. And it's actually in the same hotel, just a few floors down. So they go to her place. So when they get there, she has made this amazing food spread for them. And she's being nice, but she wants to know everything, okay? She wants to get to the bottom of who Faith is dating because Faith has never dated anyone before, so this is a big deal. So Mama, I'm gonna call her that because I forgot her name. She asks Loren what his intentions are, and he's like, honestly, I would love to just live here and start a life with Faith. And honestly, this whole conversation should have been had privately first because Faith was blindsided. Okay, well, Faith is like, you want to live here, like, that I think that being in America would be better. And Mama is like, yeah, foreigners don't really get a lot of opportunities by working here. It's definitely better for you both to go and be in America together. And he's like, well, how would that happen, since I'm homeless? He says it like they should be in the know. And Faith, in that moment, you could see her holding back tears. This is one, news to her. Also, you've been lying. And third, this is embarrassing. The fact that she would have to hear this for the first time in front of someone that she respects, someone that their opinion she values. And so Faith is like, listen, it's not about the money. And he has told me that things are expensive in America. I know that. I just didn't know that things were so bad for him that he was homeless. So the mom is like, that's really sad that that's your situation, but it's not going to be any better here for you. And in her one-on-one, she's being nice in person, but in her one-on-one, she's like, I'm afraid that he has reached out to Faith because she has a steady job here. Like, is he leeching off of her? So this man fixes his mouth to say that it can happen for them there, right? That he can get a remote job and get American dollars and live here like royalty with Faith and take care of her. And that is such BS, because if he could have the possibility of having a steady job like that, he would have already gotten it while living in America. I think the missing piece that he's not saying on the show, but he has said all over social media, is that any money that he gets would be sent directly to child support because he owes tons to his ex-wife. So even if he has an American job and works remotely in the Philippines, that money would still get deducted for child support. He's painting a picture that is fraudulent for everyone. And Faith still is just like, I know he's a hard worker and I know that we can make it happen. And I wish that I could tell Faith that she is worthy of so much and she doesn't have to settle for the bare minimum in hopes of being accepted. Someone that is up to her level is out there that will accept her. And it just makes me so sad. So Mama Ding, her friend, is showing a nice face, a brave face, for Faith, but she is not impressed with the scum that is at her table. And so Faith in her one-on-one is like, we can work on everything. That's fine. I'm not worried about it as long as there are no more secrets. Little does she know what is ahead for her. That he's been dipping his little dingy-ding in everyone else and hasn't told her. And speaking of that, the next morning, the producers are in Loren's room and they're like, how are you? And he's like, well, not great because I woke up to an unpleasant text message. And in the text message, he tells the producer that one of his friends had stayed over one night and they came on to him and they were intimate. And now that friend has gonorrhea, you know what I'm saying? And so now they have gonorrhea of the throat, which means his dingyling has gonorrhea. I'm saying it in Spanish because I don't know what gets struck or not. But he's like, now this is another thing I have to deal with. I'm broke and I have this. First of all, STIs are serious, and they're especially serious if you don't look after yourself, if you don't get medicated to cure it and to heal it. And this man is being thirsty to be intimate with Faith. This is very dangerous. Things like this happen to people very often. You just have to be responsible and take care of yourself. I'm not going to shame him for that. I just don't like the way that he's talking about it like it's the common cold. There's something about the way that he handles serious things that make me uncomfortable, But now, he just dropped to Faith that he's homeless the day before. And now he has to be like, hey, can you take me to the free clinic? Why, you ask? Oh, yeah, because I've been cheating on you. Oh, yeah, about that. Yeah, I don't really want to be with just you. But can you take care of me while I move to the Philippines? While I also continue to not be with just you? So next week, we're going to see them have the combo, and I'm sick to my stomach because Faith just doesn't deserve this. It's just going to be so terrible for her to hear that, she's making all these excuses for him, and meanwhile, he's doing her dirt in this way. So we will be keeping up with them. You guys, I've been yapping for so long. We've discussed so much. Please do let me know your thoughts in the comments because there is so much happening. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.